My sister told everyone I was too negative to come to her gender reveal. Fine. But then my ex, her ex too, was there holding the smoke cannon. I sent her one last message, then blocked her. And now. It all started with a group message I wasn't supposed to see. My cousin Alyssa accidentally sent me a screenshot of a chat between her, my sister Kelly, and a few other people. They were planning a party where Kelly was going to announce the gender of her baby. A cute little backyard party with cupcakes and silly party poppers. But in the chat, Kelly wrote, "I just don't want her there. She's always so negative. She'll ruin the vibe." That was me. Her own sister. What made it worse was that no one in the chat argued with her. Not a single person. Alyssa tried to backtrack when she realized what she had done, but the damage was already done. I didn't even respond. I just stared at the screen, my heart pounding, then I locked my phone and left it face down on the floor all night. I'd like to say I was shocked. But the truth is, Kelly and I had been on edge for a while. And the reason for that, the thing we hadn't talked about in over a year, was Matt. My ex. And her ex. Yes. It happened. We don't talk about it in the family. No one really knows who started dating whom. But it was me. I dated Matt for almost a year. We broke up and stopped talking. A year later, Kelly brought him to Thanksgiving. As if it were the most normal thing in the world. No apologies. No warning. Just poof. And he's now part of the family. I left that dinner in the middle and we didn't talk for months. Now fast forward to the present. She's pregnant. She's throwing a party. And I'm too negative to attend. Fine. I wasn't planning on going anyway. But what happened next was a real spiral of strange and surreal events. Because somehow, Matt showed up at my doorstep on the morning of the party. And he wasn't alone. He had something in the trunk. Something smoky. Part 2. The trunk. He parked halfway on the sidewalk, as if he were in a hurry, and before I could figure out what was going on, he was standing at my door, knocking as if it were his house. I didn't want to open it. I really didn't want to. But something about the way he looked around, as if he was being watched, made me curious enough to open the door. He asked if we could talk. I said no. Then he said he had something I needed to see. I should have closed the door. Instead, I followed him out onto the street. The trunk of his car was slightly open. Smoke was coming out of it, blue, thick, and with an unusual sweet smell. I took a step back. He opened the trunk completely, as if showing me a magic trick. Inside was a box the size of a microwave oven, wrapped in duct tape, with wires wrapped around it and a small remote control that was still buzzing. I just stood there. "You brought a bomb to my house?" He said it wasn't a bomb. He called it a controlled atmospheric explosion device. Then, as if that would make it all okay, he added that it was for a party. A smoke bomb to announce the sex of a baby. Custom made. Unregistered. And, apparently, designed by his cousin, who was a pyrotechnician. He said Kelly didn't know about it. That it was supposed to be a surprise for her. A grand finale. Blue or pink smoke. He hadn't even checked what color it was. And now, for some reason, he wanted me to help him deliver it. I asked him why me. Why not just bring it over like a normal person? He looked at me for a long time. Then he said Kelly didn't trust him. That she told him to stay away until the party started. She was afraid he'd ruin everything. That part actually made me laugh. So neither of us got invited. Me for being negative, and Matt for being Matt, I guess. I told him I wasn't going to be his courier, but before I could leave, he said something that made me stop. He said, "It's not what you think. About the baby. It's not even mine." And then he closed the trunk, as if that explained everything. Part 3. Smoke and Lies. I didn't believe him. Not completely. At first. Matt had always been the type of person who would throw chaos into a situation and hope something would stick. But something about the way he said it made me hesitate. Not his tone, not his face, just the strange confidence of someone who has nothing to lose. He told me it was all a lie. That Kelly had told him the baby was his to keep him around. That she didn't even know who the father was. According to him, he only found out last week when he saw her in the emergency room with another man he didn't recognize, but she introduced him as the father. Matt didn't make a scene. He left. And 2 days later, he received an invitation to a party where the baby's gender was to be announced. He thought she was mocking him, trying to use him as a prop for a made-up story. So now he had a bombshell. He wanted to go anyway. Not for reconciliation. To expose her. I told him he was crazy. He said I didn't understand. That she had done this to both of us. Turned people against us. Lied when it suited her, then made us the villains when we didn't go along with her. And okay, maybe I wasn't ready to forgive him for his Thanksgiving stunt. But something about all this felt wrong. And familiar. Because Kelly had always been like this growing up. Charming. Calculating. There was enough truth in her lies to make them hard to refute. I stood there trying to make sense of it all, while Matt went back to the trunk to check the wires. I told him he was out of his mind if he thought he could just show up at her party with that thing and drop a truth bomb in front of her friends and half the neighborhood. He said he didn't need to. He just needed me to set it off. Then I realized, he didn't want revenge. He wanted to make a scene, but from a distance. To expose everything without having to face her. He held out the remote to me. A small red button. No labels. I didn't take it. But I didn't walk away either. He left it on the steps, got in his car, and drove away. And I just stood there looking at it, unwilling to make the decision that lay in my hands. At first, I didn't touch the remote. I left it where it was and just stared at it as if it might explode on its own. I thought Matt would come back for it. Or someone would call. Or something would happen that would relieve me of my responsibility. But nothing happened. So I took it into the house, threw it in a drawer, and spent the rest of the day trying to pretend that nothing had happened. But around 3 p.m., I got a message from my aunt. "Why aren't you here? We just started." Kelly had told everyone I was coming. This hit me harder than I expected. Because she didn't cancel my invitation directly. She just told everyone else she didn't want me to come. And then she made it seem like it was my decision not to come. Like I was being difficult again. I replied with one word. Work. Then I got the remote out of the drawer and drove off. I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't going to ruin anything, but I didn't want her to be in control again. I told myself I'd just show up, hang out for a while so she'd see me, and leave before things got complicated. When I pulled up, there were balloons tied to the mailbox. Pink and blue streamers hung on the porch. On the lawn in front of the house was a huge sign that read "Boy or Girl," written in glitter. And behind it, people were already gathering. A white tent. A table for the cake. Garden chairs and paper fans. Everyone was smiling, everything was in pastel colors, like a photo from Pinterest. I stood at the gate for a minute, looking at the crowd. Kelly was standing next to the cake in a white maternity dress, surrounded by people who were flattering her as if she was some kind of saint. And next to her, right next to her, was the guy from the ambulance. Matt hadn't lied. He was tall. Well-groomed. He was holding a glass in his hand and stroking her back as if they had been together for years. I didn't even know his name. I was about to turn away when someone noticed me. Alice. She called me and waved as if nothing had happened. And then, as if on cue, Kelly looked up and saw me. And she smiled. Not the kind of smile you give your sister when you're happy to see her. The kind that says, "I know you won't do anything. You won't make a scene. You never do." That's when I knew I wasn't going to leave. Not yet. Not like this. Because she was wrong. She didn't know what I had in my bag. I didn't even remember taking the remote, but there it was, lost under my sunglasses and my phone at the bottom of my bag. I hadn't planned on using it. But now, standing there watching her revel in her carefully crafted lie, something inside me snapped. I walked across the yard as if I belonged there. People greeted me with forced politeness or awkward half-hugs. I nodded, smiled when necessary, but mostly I was looking for one thing: the device. Matt said the smoke generator was for the finale, for the big reveal. But I didn't see anything that could hold the thing. Not under the tent. Not near the cake. Then I saw it, behind the hedge, near the back fence. A table with a tablecloth over it, something boxy underneath, and a folded card next to it that said, "Big surprise." There it was. I slowly walked around it. No one was paying attention. Everyone was focused on Kelly, who was giving a long speech about family, support, and blessings. I slipped behind the hedge, lifted the tablecloth slightly, and there it was, the box Matt had shown me. The one with the wires and the faint smell of chemical sugar. Still sealed. Still waiting. The card was still there. I checked. "Kelly, I hope this will be unforgettable. Love, M." He didn't even try to be mysterious. I put the card in my pocket. There were 2 buttons on the device itself. One was taped over. The other was connected to a remote receiver, his controlled detonation system. That meant the red button I had was active. I returned to the crowd just in time to hear Kelly say it was almost time. The guests applauded, and someone brought out a cake, which appeared to be just for show. The real surprise awaited us outside. A surprise none of us will ever forget. I understood. As everyone began to disperse, moving toward the hedge and the mysterious box, I felt my phone vibrate in my bag. The number was blocked. I knew it was Matt. I didn't answer. I just looked at Kelly, who was holding her new boyfriend's hand, beaming as she always did when she thought she was finally the center of attention. I took the remote out of my bag. She noticed me again. Her smile faltered. I pressed the button. Nothing happened. Not right away. Then a deep, muffled gunshot rang out from behind the hedge, and a column of thick, bright green smoke shot into the air. Not pink. Not blue. Just bright green, like antifreeze, envy, and radioactive waste in a bottle. The crowd held its breath. Someone shouted, "Are they twins?" But Kelly understood everything. That color wasn't part of her plan. She didn't take her eyes off me. I didn't smile. I didn't wave. I just turned and walked away. She followed me. She caught up with me as I turned the corner of the house and grabbed my arm as if we were children playing dress-up. "What the hell did you do?" I didn't answer. There was no need. She knew. She pulled me behind the garage, away from the crowd, and stood there with her arms crossed, as if she was going to scold me for stealing her lip gloss. I waited for her to say something real, but of course she didn't. She asked if Matt had put me up to it. I said I came on my own. She laughed. She called me bitter. She said I always needed attention more than the truth. That no one cared who started dating whom first, that Matt was nothing to her. Just a mistake she fixed better than I did. I told her I saw the guy. The new one. In the ambulance. She fell silent for a moment. Then she said something I didn't expect. Something too harsh to have been prepared in advance. "It's not his baby." I didn't say anything. She shook her head, as if I were to blame for her confession. Then she said she wasn't sure whose child it was, but that it was an important story. A celebration. That she was starting a family, and people should see her as someone worth rooting for. She said people loved her more when she was glowing. That her life looks better when someone else looks worse. I told her that the green smoke ruined everything. She said not really. People are already hyping it up online. Calling it creative. Saying it's eco-friendly. Unique. Unusual. On brand. She said she would tell everyone that the color meant growth. A new beginning. And that I had only made the situation better. Then she smiled. As if she had won. So I took the card out of my pocket. The one from Matt. I read it aloud to her. just the signature, with love, M. And then I told her I'd posted it everywhere, along with a screenshot of her messages to Alice saying I was too negative to come. I told her green smoke was the least of her worries. For a moment, her expression changed. Then she turned and walked back to the party without saying a word. And I drove home, the remote still in my bag, my phone lit up with messages I didn't check. Because the real bomb hadn't exploded yet. But it would. I didn't sleep that night. My phone buzzed every few minutes. Comments, messages, tags. I didn't open most of them, just watched the number of messages grow. When I got home, the video with the green smoke was already on TikTok. Someone had added music. Toxic, by Britney Spears. It went viral. By morning, Kelly's Instagram was gone. So was her boyfriend's. But the post about the birth, which she had planned in advance, was still there. Just a photo of a cake with the caption, "Looks like we've got something green growing, green heart #blessed." She was trying to spin it. As always. But it wasn't working. Alyssa texted me first. She apologized again for the screenshot, saying she didn't know Kelly would use it to isolate me. Then she said something that stopped me in my tracks. She lied about the baby for months. No one knew who the father was. People just went along with it because she made it seem like the questions were jealousy. Jealousy. That word again. I finally opened Matt's message. The one he sent right before the smoke appeared. It said, "I knew you'd know when to press." I didn't reply. There was nothing to say. By the end of the week, the party had become a meme. People used green smoke to reveal everything from breakups to job losses. One person even faked green smoke to hide that they had adopted a cat. It wasn't just a ruined party. Now it was a symbol. And Kelly. She went silent. The last I heard, she moved in with a friend in another state. She gave everything away and disappeared. Her fresh start. I kept the remote. It's in my drawer, next to the sunglasses I didn't wear that day. It doesn't work anymore. There's no signal. Just a reminder of what happens when you let someone write your story for too long, and of what it's like when you finally take the pen into your own hands.